Jazz, like basically like what's your story? Like how did you get to where you're at today?
Well, look, man, I mean, right now I've been a licensed realtor for a little over 20 years. So I know it doesn't look like it when you're looking at me for
Mm-hmm.
the guys and gals that are not just listening to the podcast while they're taking their dog for a walk. But even before that, I've always been in the sales industry. So before I got into real estate 20 years ago, I was selling cars for about 3.5 years. I then was in the banking industry, helping people with mortgages and lines of credits. I was doing that for 3 years. Before that, I was selling shoes. And then as a 12-year-old, I actually thought the job that I had as a 12-year-old, I was going to do that for the rest of my life. It was selling newspapers. Like it was the coolest thing in the world for me because I got to knock on doors, meet people, and get paid for it. Like I was hooked. And that probably came from the age around 6 or 7, where I was the first kid to put up his hand to help with the book sale, the knocking on doors and selling Christmas ornaments. I think I've learned pretty quickly it was more to get out of class because that's not the way that I kind of learned.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been in my DNA, man. It's exactly what I was put on this earth to do, and I'm not like over dramatizing that because I know how much I suck at everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you told me to write this stuff on a piece of paper, Cameron, it's over. Forget
Mm-hmm.
it. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I said to you off air really quickly, like, don't tell me the questions you're going to ask me. Don't send them ahead of time because I'm just more comfortable just telling you my story. And I
Right.
think in sales, that's what it's about. Not necessarily telling your own story, but telling the stories of other people that have done what you're wanting this new prospect to do. And then
Mm-hmm.
to directly answer your question in terms of how I got into sales coaching, after the 20 years that I've been in real estate in the last decade, my team here in Canada, and I'm not, anybody who watches my social media, you'll know that I'm not one of those guys that flex and I'm bragging. Like I'm not trying to impress people. It's really to impress upon you where the data's coming from. That my team in the last decade has been in the top 3 in Canada, somewhere number 1, number 2, number 3 in that
Mm-hmm.
last decade. And so a lot of people just started reaching out to me and saying, bro, like, why do you always have like a videographer around you? It's kind of weird. Like, it's a little narcissistic, right? Like this was 4 or 5 years ago. Like, why do you got the podcast studio in your office? Why are you giving away all the information for free? That I started that 5 years ago. That quickly turned into like, hey, can you help me do this? Can you tell me this? My nature is to like what I'm gonna do here with you, Cameron, is give away all the information, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
bro, the stuff that me and you are talking about, people can quickly search it on a couple of sites. Like, I'm not sure if people have heard of the site called Google and YouTube. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can find out all the information, right? And so what I started doing is giving away all that information. People came to me though and said, look, man, like, can you just actually help me implement it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you help me stay accountable and actually coach me through it on a more of a regular basis? Having some entrepreneurial blood in me, I kept on getting slapped with the same question over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, it was like, look, just go look at my content on YouTube and social media. I'm giving it to you, but I didn't understand how many people needed the accountability. For me, it's because this is all I know.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do anything else. I didn't need anybody to necessarily hold me accountable. I kind of held myself accountable. Not to say
Mm-hmm.
I'm better than anyone, but I realized that other people are not necessarily, their makeup is not necessarily the same. And so that led me into coaching. We started with a 10-day program where people would come into my office, which is slightly different than I think what other coaches are doing out there. Not no knock on anyone else, but I think what we do different is the fact that when you came in here for the 10 days, which we did for about a year and a half, you actually immersed yourself. Hence, what we called it our immersion program into what I was already doing. So what makes me slightly different is that I'm not just a coach, I'm actually in the business. I have a team of 42 realtors. I have 13 support staff. I have clients in the real estate market right now that real estate's not necessarily the sexiest thing right now. So I'm navigating through this in my own business. These agents and loan officers slash mortgage brokers would come into my office. We would make phone calls. We would shoot content. That then morphed into what the program is now, which is a year-long program. People come into my office for about 3 hours a week, and we do the work together, man. It's kind of cool to see the changes in people that, where they started, where they were shaking to make that first phone call, because we all have this story in our head, like, oh my God, they're going to tell me to F off, or they're going to tell me not to call me. Well, that's great that you know that now, because that's the worst that's going to happen. And so
Yeah.
they make that call, and 95% of the time, the person on the other line doesn't say F off. They
Hmm.
don't say, don't call me. They're just like, I'm not ready right now.
Hmm.
Or what magically does also happen, which is, hey, like, yeah, I would be down for like a financial checkup from the neck up, some type of portfolio analysis. I'd be down for that. Nobody's
Yeah.
actually offering it. And then that's called an appointment. And more appointments, they lead into, hence the word lead,
Hmm.
lead into possible business.
Yeah, 100%. I was gonna, first of all, thank you for all that, because you hit on a couple pieces that I actually want to hit on later on. But I was going to ask around the challenges that, and some of the biggest challenges that real estate agents are experiencing today when it comes to sales. But I would, because you hit on the one of like having that fear of like, I believe it's called a call reluctancy or something of that nature. You may have a
That's
different
what I
term.
think. Yeah, I think it's just the fear of the unknown, like
Yeah.
anything.
Hmm.
It's like when we were kids, right? Oh my
Hmm.
God, what's in my closet?
Hmm.
What's under the bed? But
Yeah.
then when you meet the child, I got two boys, 10 and 8, and you're
Uh-huh.
like, let's go look under the bed together, son.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah, yeah.
It's the fear of the why do we get so scared in pitch dark?
Yeah.
Like when it's pitch black, you can't see. The
Hmm.
reason because you're like, shit, I don't know what's there. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And so before getting into like actual like specific challenges that they're actually dealing with when they're either cold calling or at open houses, door knocking, whatever their form of lead gen is, what do you think is going on within the brokerage that the real estate agents are a part of? Like where's the disconnect between their broker or the coaches within their brokerage or yeah, why does an agent have to find this help outside of the organization that says that we're here to help and support you?
Well, look, I mean, there is some amazing brokerages out in North America,
Mhm.
and I think every single one of them to a T, every
Mhm.
single one of them to a T has the right intent. They
Mhm.
started out with great intentions, which generally was not every single time though, but generally was one like it was a solo agent, got into a team, then realized, hey, I can not only have my own team, but I can have a brokerage where other agents join. I'll coach them, I'll mentor them, I'll train them, whatever words you want to use, and then I'll make what I think is the highest level of wealth creation, which is residual income. You do something once and then you get paid for it over and over again. In the
Mhm.
brokerage model, you hire the agent once, they do deals, and you get paid over and over again. And so the intent and the starting point was right. But what happens is that they get busy. As
Mhm.
they grow and scale, they no longer can get to every single agent with the hands-on approach that I think
Mhm.
this business needs. Now,
Mhm.
flip side, in a way, maybe I took away some flowers from the brokers and like the broker owners of the world, where a lot of it though lands on the agent, because the agent, the opportunity in the white space that I saw with my coaching academy is that they actually need that. What do I mean by this? Well, see, most people got into the business not because they grew up their whole life like we would say we wanted to be an astronaut or a fireman or a policeman or an athlete or a movie star. No one really grew up and said, I wanted to be a real estate agent. I maybe was the nerd who was like, I think I'm going to do sales for the rest of my life. This is
Mhm.
it. Like I'm really good at, to the point at the start. But they got in because someone said to them, Cameron, like you're really good with people, man. Like they saw $1 million listing New York and LA, and then in 22 minutes they saw this shiny fucking $27,000 commission that someone made, and that's why they got in. Or their friends or friend of a friend drives a beautiful Benz or BMW, and they're like, "Hey, what do you do?" And I'm a real estate agent. And you're like, "Holy shit, this guy makes so much money," or "This
Mm,
girl makes so much money," right? And so they got into it with that in mind. Their intent was not necessarily a good place to be at in terms of a starting point. And
mhm,
so because they got in thinking that, oh, it's easy money, you get into this business. In fact, like out of our 42 agents now, we over and above them, we don't hire anybody who's just been in the business for a year, because I don't think you got beat around enough. You haven't got slapped around by the industry enough yet, right? So it's like usually a 2-year minimum for us to
mhm,
join an actual team. And the
mhm,
reason for that is because we want you to know what's out there. We want you to understand that, hey, it's not you get your business cards and you tell everybody your license, and all of a sudden you're making hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. That's not how this works. There's a process to it. You have to fundamentally do the right things in this business. And at the end of the day, call it the real estate business, whatever you want, being a real estate agent, it's sales. And the fundamental aspect of sales is that you need to meet people,
mhm.
period. And
Yeah.
so I know some agents that are in this business and they don't even like people. Like, this is the wrong business to be in if you don't like people, because you're taking on everyone else's issues and problems and
Yeah.
fires and all that stuff, right? And emotions, right?
Uh-huh,
And so
uh-huh.
I think, to answer your question, brother, the gap that is from agent to brokerage is primarily because brokerages just have gotten busy. Like my guys here, I'm not just saying this, I have no incentives to say this. In fact, like the guys who own my brokerage, they're 1,500 deep now in terms of agents across 3 office locations. And these guys are some of the best, like salt of the earth people, like human beings, but they're busy. They're busy. They're growing. They have their own issues of, like, dealing with the Council of Ontario because they're so big and they're getting audited, and like real business adult problems where the agent out of the 1,500, unfortunately, you're not going to get the love and the high touch that you need from a coaching perspective, which in my opinion is only offered by outsourcing that to other coaches.
Have you had teams call you and is like, hey, can you revamp like the 57 agents that we have in our company? And so
100%.
so with that, so like talk to me about that process. Like how do you walk into a situation of that caliber where a team is like, hey, we have, whatever, 70-80% of our agents that, they not good. And when it comes to sales, how do you walk into helping that type of brokerage or that type of team?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I look at them all individually anyways, right?
Mm,
Like I've had different situations where it's a small brokerage of 20-25 people, where when it's a brokerage, then you have your individual agents. Then I've had like a celebrity agent, like the Cameron team, but then the Cameron team has 1582 agents or whatever it is. And so, but from our perspective, and it's not just me who's like the only coach here in the academy, I'm the one of the founders, but then we have coaches in content, CRM, like slash
mm,
database stuff. We actually
mm,
have a dean in the academy. We have ads that we run for our coaching clients. And so I have other coaches. But what we do is that in any one of those situations, we're going to start with the fundamentals. And the
mm,
fundamentals are, I need to look at your CRM, because you mentioned that word contact sport. It definitely is a contact sport. Sales, specifically real estate, because in across North America, you're looking at 1.5 million real estate agents,
mm,
right? And then another probably about a couple of 100,000 loan officers slash mortgage brokers, who are kind of like the cousins in our industry. And so at the end of the day, you got to differentiate yourself. That's at the highest level. That's what we're trying to accomplish for our coaching clients, is how do we differentiate you? The nice thing is the second you open your mouth, and the second you go on video, you've already differentiated yourself, because no one looks and sounds like Cameron or looks and sounds like me. Like at the end of the day, we're going to say the same thing. Like, here's the 3 ways to buy a house or be a first-time home buyer, but it's going
mm,
to look and sound differently. So the nice thing is that it's easy to get to. But
mm,
the most fundamental thing that we work on is the CRM. We
mm,
have to get people, agents first, sorry, to get names into some type of software.
mm.
names from their phone list. And people always ask me, who do I put in? Depending on your state or province, generally speaking, the minimum legal age required to sign a document is 18. So I always say, if there's somebody in your phone that's 18 plus and has a pulse, they go into the CRM. Why? Because we know on average that every single person, on average, knows 200 people. So if you can get your CRM as quickly as possible to 200 people, then your network, your possible network of people that you might do business with is 40,000 people. Because 200 people that know 200 people that know 200 people, that's 40,000 people. Now, you can't remember their phones and their phone numbers, their names, and their emails, and their birthdays, and their dog. Like, what's your dog's name, for example? Like I'm gonna find that out at some point because you said dog's barking. I'm gonna get the type of dog. I'm gonna get the dog's name, and then I'm gonna mark that in my CRM. Because Cameron, next time you and I speak, if I say, like, for example, what's your dog's name?
Zeus.
Zeus.
Zeus. Like the god,
Zeus.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna next time we speak and say, how's Zeus? I don't hear him barking.
Yeah.
How am I doing? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
building rapport as quickly as possible. Now, I can't remember Zeus's name necessarily unless I put that somewhere. So we start individually. Doesn't matter how many team members there are, what type of celebrities a team it is, if it's a brokerage, is let's get everyone's name and number into a CRM because these are possible people that might buy or sell. I don't actually even care if the 200 names, none of them will ever buy. It's the 200 people that each of those people know that might possibly buy. But then what we got to do with them, once we have them in a CRM, let's just do some automation, some basic stuff. Let's send an email every other week. Not, hey, Cameron, are you thinking about buying or selling right now? Like, what the fuck is the chances of the stars aligning that day and he's ready to buy? Well,
Yes.
how about, you get what I'm saying? Like that
Yes.
email used to work in the 80s. You're way too young, buddy, for this. That shit used to work in the 90s and the early 2000s, okay?
Yeah.
If in that early 2000s. So what you want to do is send a bi-weekly email every other week, nice and simple, give some education. And look, sending out tips on how to clean the gutters, it's better than nothing. However, we can get a little bit more creative, use ChatGPT, and how about some wealth creation tips? Because I believe, and call me naive, but I believe that 99% of people want to get out of the rat race. The rat race of being either in a 9-to-5, not having financial freedom, paying less taxes. It comes in different forms, but at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get one extra nugget that can help us get out of that rat race for whatever reason. So our product, we're very lucky that our product allows for that. Is it the best vehicle? No. Is it the only vehicle? No. But it's one of the best vehicles, real estate. I mean, you got stocks, you got mutual funds, Bitcoin, whatever you want to do. But real estate isn't a vehicle that a lot of people have used to get out of the rat race and create wealth in their life. So let's give some tips around that in an email every other week, nice and simple. Why? Well, you're just dropping seeds. You're hoping that Cameron, out of the 26 emails that you send to him in a year, he friggin' opens one of them and just says, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. Like Jas is teaching me about tax savings and using the 1090 exchange, right? Like you might not have known that, right? If you were just in my CRM. Then we want to call these people. Setting up an email and sending an email, unfortunately, is not going to just get you all the business, because if you have an open rate, if you have 200 people in your CRM at the start and you get an open rate of 20%, you're a rock star. You're a rock star at 20% open rate today in today's day and age. But unfortunately, that's only 40 people open your email. The other 160, it goes into the spam, or they just, whatever. They don't want to open it. So how do you actually get in front of them? This is the exercise. That's the number one exercise for salespeople. It's this motion right here. This is the exercise salespeople need to do. Pick up the phone. And again, you don't call and say, do you want to buy or sell? You call and just say, hey, man, Cameron, like, I don't want to spam you anymore, man. Like, are you opening the email? Like, are you even interested in the emails? You're cool with that? Okay, cool. Like, are you okay to give me some feedback on some of the marketing I'm doing? I'm starting to put out some more content on social media. Hey, I'm just getting started with it. So like, I want you to give me the constructive criticism, but just have some patience. I'm going to get better, especially with the feedback. See how I'm like trying to get you to buy into my story here, right? And then I'm going to maybe like, if you're receptive to the conversation after I ask about Zeus and you can hear someone smile on the other end, right? Hey, like, I'm just curious, like what I'm doing for a lot of my people right now is, with all these changes in the rates, is I'm doing like a financial checkup from the neck up. Like, we have a sexy word for it. It's called a real estate action plan. At the end of the day, it's just like, finding out where you're at right now, maybe seeing where you might want to go. I'll show you how I might be able to help. I emphasize the word might because we can't help everyone. It takes about 20 minutes. If there's no cost for it, you down? Like, when's usually good for you for like 20 minutes, bro? Like during the day or the afternoon? Very passive, right? I hope people really caught, like, there's the script to it. I don't care how you use the words that I just said. Use the exact, like, use it to a T if you want. It's more the tonality, right? It's the like, we're just kind of checking with people and not making it too aggressive, not making like they have to do it, like their life's not going to change if they do it, but it might change. Like, we might be able to find an opportunity. So that is the call. Then we're going to set up 4 educational events, 2 of them being in this setting, like a webinar, simple, Zoom, free, no cost. I like that. I mean, I'm East Indian, so my mom negotiates over apples back home, so I like free. All right, so I like podcasting, bro. But then I'm also going to do 2 in person. That's the contact sport to the next level, like belly to belly. We see each other. It's kind of different. You know what I mean? And so we're going to go into any team, any brokerage, set up the fundamentals. Those 3 things are the fundamentals, because this is what I've come to learn, is that in the real estate business, you need to stay in business. You stay in business by making sales. You make sales by calling people. The best time and the best way to guarantee that you call people consistently is put it in your schedule. Do it from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. every day that you work. And I'm not here to tell you that you need to work 7 days a week and 24 hours a day. That's bullshit. That's hustle porn. That's not what I'm selling you or telling you. What I'm saying is, to be in the top 1%, you need to have this schedule. Decide the days you're going to work. You're going to work 5 days? Great. From 9 to 12, do nothing else other than generate business. Because when you generate business, you have a much higher opportunity and a much higher probability to stay in business, because you're doing it on a consistent basis.
Yep. So I'm more on the marketing side, obviously, Real Marketing Podcast. And the more I'm getting better at marketing, the better the campaigns that I'm running from an organic, paid perspective, email marketing, all that good stuff. No matter how hard I work, I am beginning to realize that there is this, I want to say, like Kobe and Shaq relationship that sales and marketing has to have with each other. And so like they have to know, like, okay, what are you doing on this side when it comes to the content? Can I use some of that content in order to help me sell better? Hey, salespeople, what are you hearing? What problems are you hearing from the consumers that you're getting, so I can then turn it into content to then give back to you to better, engage with the prospects that you're trying to engage with and convert. And so can you talk to the sales and marketing relationship that you've experienced, or how you're leveraging marketing to improve your sales?
Well, first and foremost, I have it all in one house. So big shout out to Kobe and Shaq, because the Lakers have been my team since I started watching basketball. So probably early 91, 92. In fact, I actually wanted the 91 Lakers to beat the 91 Bulls. I was never a Bulls fan, but the way that I look at sales and marketing is actually more like Jordan and Pippen, in terms of they collaborated a lot better, in my opinion, than Shaq we did, because Shaq and Kobe should have stayed together even longer, and they would have won 6 championships, maybe even I'd have even beat Jordan and Pippen. And so for me, I do it all in one house. It's all done here. None of it's outsourced. for that reason that you mentioned, Cameron, because my sales guys always need to know what content's going out, and my content team actually takes what my sales guys are doing. Meaning, I have 4 videographers and editors full time at the office right next door to me right now. It's the guys that are setting this up, they're doing their thing, okay? But what they do on a daily basis is just record the conversations that my sales guys are having. We take out anything that wasn't personal from the client's perspective and confidential, and we put that out as content. Why? Because we're showcasing to other people that, hey, Mr. and Mrs. possible investor, home buyer, or home seller, this is what other people are doing. Like, jump on the train or not, but this is how we educate people, and that's how we go about informing people, so the client that is watching, the viewer of the content, the reader of the blog, can make an informed decision. And so for me, to answer your question directly again, Cameron, it's having it in one house. I actually don't see them separately. I see them in this, you know, what's that called? Is it the something diagram, Venn diagram? You have sales, you have marketing, they overlap, but then the third one is branding to me. And to me, branding is just slightly above sales and marketing, because branding takes a lot more time. That takes a lot more time, and you need to have a lot more patience, but it will pay off tenfold more than even sales and marketing, right? Sales and marketing is more outbound stuff. Yes, there's an inbound component to it, but nothing in my eyes has come as high as branding from an effective perspective of inbound. Because when I started my podcast 5 years ago and started putting out content 3 to 4 times a day on all the platforms, like, I'm like Mamba mentality obsessed about putting out content. That's my thing. Why? Because I know that that's more from a branding perspective, not sales and marketing. It leads into sales, the branding, but it's where I think more people should spend time, because there's been no easier time than 2024, because for all the videographer editors that I have, all the high-tech stuff, everything can be done from this device. In fact, I don't own a computer. You know, I haven't touched a computer in 8 years. I don't even really have an office. Like, I have an office for my crew, but me personally, why? Because I realized after 12, 13 years, man, I'm tied down to the stupid computer. I'm tied down to the stupid desk. All I really need is this device. This device lets me call people, the best exercise, sales. And then from a marketing and branding perspective, it lets me shoot videos, do voice notes, do a podcast. And so I hope I gave you, like, I articulated myself well there, Cameron, in terms of how I brought them together.
Yeah, 100%. Can you speak to the, I want to say, like, the impact of marketing on salespeople? Like, if you were to take away those two components, like the branding and marketing, and you just had the salesperson doing outbound, compared to adding the component of doing some sort of marketing, email marketing, social media marketing, whatever it is, and also that branding component as well. Like, can you talk to the impact of having that as a salesperson?
For 15 years in real estate specifically, but then also in car sales for 3 years, all kind of done at a high level. It was all building up my authority in the first 30 to 40 minutes in a conversation with a prospect. That prospect being in front of me, the prospect being on the phone call with me. You know, later on in my car sales career and early to in my real estate career, like, emails started coming out, but I was building authority. I was going uphill, but that's the only thing that at that time you really could do, unless you were the Nikes and the Apples and whatever, you know, like the Mercedes of the world, because they have such a strong brand. 5 years ago, I started content, social media content. I started from a podcast perspective first, because I just understood it from what I saw Gary Vee speak about. Like, that was the inspiration for me, and which was, do a long form piece of content, and then you can get your short form. And I didn't like the camera. So for all the charisma someone might say right now as they watch this, or even if they're listening to it, I need 7 cameras on me now, because I like to catch all the angles. But if at the start you saw, like, bro, I was so scared shitless of the camera, I started an audio podcast because I didn't want the camera. on, and I couldn't
Mhm.
look at the lens. It wasn't what I grew up with. It was all my insecurities started to come out as I watched myself for the first few times. And what happened though, a year into it, so after doing it for a year, I had a client walk into my office and I started pitching them, doing what I normally did for 20 years or whatever it was in the sales industry. And they stopped me. It was a husband and wife. They stopped me and the wife said, "Sorry, stop." And inside, like my stomach was turning. I'm like, shit, did I say something out of turn? Like, yeah, I throw some F-bombs. Like they were okay with it. She said, "Jas, we saw the video like 2 nights ago at home, and we already know everything about this. We're just here to know, like, can we put this under a corporation or do I have to do it personally? Because I just need to move money around." And I'm like, "You saw the video when? At home?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Sorry, so you're ready to go?" And they're like, "Yeah, like we're ready to go." They left. We did the deal. I looked over to my VP at that time. I'm like, "Oh shit, the game's changed for me now." Like, they watched this shit at 2 o'clock in the morning with some wine in their pajamas. They came here, stopped me. They already know everything. Like, they're actually a little amazed that I'm even sitting with them and talking with them, which was completely weird for me. Like, you want to speak to me and like I'm some type of like I was never a Z list celebrity. Now like I'm like a B list, sorry, a C list or a D list or whatever you want to call it. Like it was cool. Like that's how it all started to make sense to me that, oh, all you got to do is bring value to people, not sell them. They'll sell themselves, and just do it consistently over and over and over again. Now, the little Jazzes and the little Camerons of the world can play with the McDonald's and the Mercedes and the Apples from the perspective of running content over and over again. Hence why in a 30-minute show of Seinfeld, The Office, The Friends, whatever it may be, 8 minutes of it is generally the same commercials over and over again because they were brainwashing us. And that's what I knew, that, oh my God, we have the ability to do this now, and it's not going to cost us millions of dollars. And so that's how marketing changed for me, back in 2019, I guess it was 2018, 2019. And then what I really realized is that this new version of your reputation is now just online, which is branding.
Mhm.
Right. So if you walk into a room and then when you leave that room, what are people saying about you? That's your reputation, period. They're either saying, fuck, man, like me, when I see something, if somebody asks me about Cameron, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, I'm gonna say this fucking guy has an amazing smile. His energy is like on point. You know what I mean? He's prepared really well. That's your reputation from
Mhm.
my perspective.
Mhm.
Now, in 2024, you have this new thing, which is called an online reputation, which is your brand.
Mhm.
That's what it is. Like there's so many coaches and so many people talking about branding. They're selling people on branding. And I get it. Like everybody's trying to make a buck. I get it. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's just your online reputation now. Social media is, but
Yeah.
branding is what your reputation is, man. And I just think that I don't care how many people you have on your team or how big your organization is, a company brand can only go so far. And like unless you're ready to play with the Apples and the Mercedes Benz, and we're talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars that they spend on their messaging every year.
Mhm.
The reason we're all lucky because our personal brand now can actually do better than a company brand,
Mhm.
because we as humans connect with other humans, not logos. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you look at Elon Musk, his following is bigger than Tesla.
Mhm.
Look at Bill Gates. His following is bigger than Microsoft. And I could keep on going down the list here,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Tim Cook is bigger than Apple, actually, if you look at their personal social media following. And that's what we have the ability to do now. And so if you're not taking this opportunity, I really, really, really am imploring you to take this opportunity, because if you're not, you're going to kick yourself. You're going to be someone who said, fuck, I wish I had done it 5 years from now, rather
Mhm.
than saying, bro, I'm so glad I did that, man. I started it 5 years. You know what I mean? And so I think
So,
for everybody watching or listening, just get your feet wet. If you're doing it already, do more. How
mhm.
much more? More. My favorite probably commercial of all time is Kobe, you know, at center stage, and Anthony Robbins and Kanye West, and all these guys are like, how much more should I practice? More. How much more shots should I take? More. How much
Yeah.
content do I take? More. How many calls? More. Like, more is more in this
Mhm,
situation. Like,
mhm,
people all over the place of like, yo, I need the quality of my video to be better. Nobody gives a shit at the start, bro. Quantity over quality, for
mhm,
sure, because you get more reps in. Like, I can
mhm,
tell you some working out and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like,
mhm,
so you know that 16 push-ups is better than 4.
mhm,
Period. Like,
mhm,
if I do 4 push-ups every day and you do 16, you're gonna be a little bit more jacked than I am.
mhm.
Right? It's the same shit. The more calls you do, the more videos you put out, the better you're gonna be at it. But make no mistake about it. When you go to the mindset of branding, it will help your sales. Sales can never help really branding as much. It doesn't go upwards. It goes from the top downwards.
Interesting. I love it, dude. Dude, I could like continue this conversation for a long time, but I do want to be respectful of your time.
I appreciate it because
Um,
I lose track of time, bro. And then I
yeah,
see my
yeah.
kids doors and shit here.
They're
But
like,
I'm
we need
just
to go. We need to go. Yeah. And so, but Jazz, for any teams, real estate agents that come across this video, is there a way to get in contact with you and your team if they wanted your sales consulting services?
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. Look, man, I ain't that hard to find. If you Google my name, first name, last name, Jas Takhar, you'll find a lot about me. If you wanted to learn a little bit more, just go to meetjastakhar.com. Meetjastakhar.com. You'll figure it out. You'll find if like you like the good-looking Indian guy or you think I'm on some type of crack because I'm moving my hands around and all. You'll figure it out yourselves.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah. One of the goals of this quickly, like one of the goals of this you podcast is to take individuals like yourself and just make you as loud as possible. And so, yeah, and so anything that the real estate community can do to push you further to, just expand that voice and just, you
Man,
know.
that means a lot, bro. Like that
Hmm.
really, really means a lot. And I've been on people's podcasts for coming up to about 4 years. It's actually been a big, pretty strategy of mine. And every
Hmm.
time somebody asked that, I had nothing to really say to them. It was just like, man, like you did enough. And so I want to start off by saying thank you for putting out that energy that you're putting out there. And we need that. We need this virus of positivity to be put out more. So kudos
Hmm.
to you.
Appreciate it.
And I would normally just say like, yeah, like find me, so on and so forth. But now, because you asked me the question, it really is I'm trying to get on as much stages as possible because
Mm,
I'm a kid from the north part of Toronto where in an area they told you to put up your windows and lock your doors.
mhm,
Small little area in the north part of Toronto. And now I'm trying to be the voice of Rexdale. That's the area that I'm from.
mhm,
And I want to be on as many stages as possible. So I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks for a big real estate Inman conference on
mhm,
stage there. I'm getting flown over to Dubai in a couple of months to do a training for a team, as you were talking about earlier. So to you, brother, like if there's any conferences happening, any possible stages I can speak to
mhm.
and speak on, that's what I'm looking for.